The storm hit harder than anyone expected. Not the kind that rolls in from the Atlantic, this one came from Denver. The Philadelphia Eagles walked into that game with confidence, control, and history on their side. For 3 quarters, they looked like the better team, tougher, smarter, sharper. Then, suddenly, everything unraveled. Up 17-3, it should have been over. But football doesn't respect comfort. The Broncos surged, wave after wave, until the scoreboard told a story no one in Philadelphia wanted to read: 18 unanswered points. The Eagles, once soaring, were grounded in silence. What made it worse wasn't just the loss, it was how it happened. The Broncos adjusted. Sean Payton's offense adapted. Vance Joseph's defense shifted to zone coverage, and instantly, the Eagles' rhythm vanished. The offense looked lost, confused, searching for a way out that never came. Third downs became dead ends. Drives collapsed before they began. And that electric start faded into frustration. Philadelphia finished 2 for 11 on third downs. The offensive line, once the team's heartbeat, gave up 6 sacks, each one a gut punch to a quarterback who never stopped fighting. Saquon Barkley touched the ball just 6 times on the ground. 6. For a team built on physicality, that number tells you everything. When the Eagles stop running the football, they stop being themselves. That's when the machine sputters, when the identity slips. But the most painful part? They showed flashes of greatness. Devonta Smith finally looked like the star fans knew he was: precise, fearless, explosive. A.J. Brown bullied Patrick Surtain, the reigning Defensive Player of the Year, in that first half. Jalen Hurts threw with command and confidence, hitting Smith for a 52-yard bomb and Barkley for a 47-yard strike that had the crowd believing again. And then, it all disappeared. Costly penalties. Mental errors. Missed assignments. The little things, the ones that separate contenders from champions, kept stacking up until the game was gone. That's the part that haunts you. Not the score. Not the opponent. But the realization that this wasn't about talent, it was about composure. About discipline. About finishing. The Eagles didn't lose because they weren't good enough. They lost because they forgot who they were. And now, with cracks showing in a once mighty armor, the question isn't whether they can bounce back. It's whether they're willing to change before it's too late. It should have been a statement win, the kind that reminds the league who still runs the NFC. When the Eagles took that early lead, it felt inevitable. They were sharper, faster, more confident. The Broncos looked rattled, and Philadelphia was 1 or 2 clean drives away from burying them. But football is cruel when you leave the door open. If a few plays had gone differently, if a few penalties hadn't killed drives, if a few mental errors hadn't stacked up, Jalen Hurts could have been celebrating a 400-yard, 4-touchdown masterpiece against one of the NFL's best defenses. Instead, the story flipped. What should have been domination became a meltdown. The second half was a slow bleed. Drives stalled. Confidence wavered. And for every mistake, the Broncos grew stronger. The defense, which had controlled the line of scrimmage for most of the afternoon, simply ran out of gas. Fatigue set in, and with the offense sputtering, they were left stranded, drive after drive, possession after possession. But it wasn't just fatigue that cost Philadelphia, it was discipline. Saquon Barkley wasn't set on a critical 4th down that should have put the Eagles deep in enemy territory. 30 yards wiped away by a moment of hesitation. Tyler Steen was flagged for an illegal man downfield, another first down gone. False starts. Holding calls. Late hits. Each flag slicing away momentum, piece by piece. These aren't the growing pains of a young team. These are the scars of a roster built to win now, a roster made up of veterans who know better. 10 of 11 starters from last year's Super Bowl team returned. They've been here before. They've felt the pressure. But lately, they've been folding under it. Yes, the good news is that these mistakes are fixable. The spirit, the fire, the raw emotion that Nick Sirianni demands, it's still there. The Eagles still play with swagger, with that unmistakable edge that makes them dangerous. But passion without control is chaos. 15 penalties in one game, many for personal fouls and unsportsmanlike conduct, is the kind of self-inflicted wound that championship teams don't survive for long. And underneath all of it, the deeper issue remains: this offensive line, once the foundation of Philadelphia's identity, is crumbling. 6 sacks allowed, constant pressure, missed assignments. It's not just costing them plays. It's costing them belief. The run game has vanished into a ghost of its former self. Saquon Barkley, through 5 games, hasn't broken a run longer than 17 yards. Not because he's lost a step, his burst, his power, his explosiveness are still there, but because the lanes aren't. The holes that used to open like canyon cracks have become walls of frustration. When an offense can't run, it can't breathe. And when it can't breathe, it can't finish. That's why this team feels stuck, trapped between talent and execution, potential and identity. The offense flashes brilliance, then vanishes into confusion. The defense fights, then fades. But behind all of this, another problem is quietly brewing, one that's just as dangerous. Because while everyone's been talking about the offense's inconsistency, the real storm may be forming on the other side of the ball. The Eagles' pass rush, once their weapon, their pride, their statement to the league, has gone silent. And for a franchise built on defensive dominance, that silence is deafening. Once upon a time, the Eagles' defense didn't just play, it hunted. In 2022, quarterbacks could feel the pressure before the ball was even snapped. That front line wasn't just dominant, it was terrifying. Every snap was a warning shot. Every sack, a message: you can't outrun us. But now? The roar has turned into a whisper. And for a city that defines itself by toughness, that silence feels like betrayal. Through 5 weeks of the 2025 season, the Eagles' pass rush, once their signature weapon, has all but disappeared. The numbers tell a story that no one in Philadelphia wants to read. Moro Amo, a defensive tackle, leads the team with 2 sacks. Zach Bond, a linebacker, also has 2. Za'Darius Smith, signed off the street after week 1, has 1.5. After that? A sack here, a half sack there. That's it. 1 edge rusher. 5 games. And for a franchise that built its modern identity on collapsing pockets and breaking wills, that's more than a problem, it's an identity crisis. Last year, the Eagles were feared for one simple reason: their defensive line dictated games. The rush made the coverage look elite, the pressure made quarterbacks panic, and everything else flowed from there. Now, without that chaos up front, the secondary is stranded, forced to hold their ground far longer than they should. This isn't a schematic issue anymore, it's personnel. The loss of Josh Sweat and Milton Williams ripped the heart out of that rotation. The plan was for young guns like Nolan Smith and Jix Hunt to step up, to carry the torch, to prove that the new generation of Eagles could keep the storm alive. But injuries, inconsistency, and inexperience have left that torch flickering. Nolan Smith's absence has been felt in every missed tackle and every clean pocket the opponent enjoys. Yes, his return from injured reserve will help, but let's be honest, one player can't fix what's become a system-wide drought. This defense doesn't just need help. It needs revival. And that's why all eyes turn to one man, Howie Roseman. The architect. The gambler. The man who refuses to sit still when something's broken. The whispers around the league say the Eagles are searching. Not for just any body off the street, but for a spark. A disruptor. A player who can change games with one violent move off the edge. Because right now, the Eagles rank 27th in the league in sacks, just 7 on the season. That's 20 fewer than the league-leading Broncos. 20. And that difference? That's the line between survival and dominance. Between chasing the Super Bowl and chasing ghosts. So the question isn't whether the Eagles can fix it, it's whether they'll act fast enough. Because somewhere out there, a player like Max Crosby, the kind of relentless, unbreakable force who embodies everything Philadelphia stands for, might be waiting for a call. And if Roseman makes that call, if the Eagles can find their hunter again, then maybe, just maybe, this defense will remember how to roar. There comes a point in every Warrior's career when loyalty meets frustration, when the dream of winning collides with the reality of being trapped on a team going nowhere. For Max Crosby, that moment feels close. He's in his prime now, late 20s, battle-scarred, relentless, and carrying a Raiders defense that's long been overshadowed by mediocrity. Crosby's fire burns too bright for meaningless football. He deserves the stage where the lights are the brightest, January football, the kind that tests your legacy. And that's where Philadelphia enters the picture. The Eagles are a team built for moments like this, aggressive, fearless, and never content with good enough. Howie Roseman has made it clear, draft picks are valuable, but championships are priceless. With 10 draft picks in 2026, including multiple mid-rounders and extra capital from trades, Philadelphia has the ammunition to make a seismic move. Imagine the call, Howie dialing Las Vegas, the room silent, the offer sliding across the table. The Raiders, desperate to reset their future, weigh it. And on the other end, a restless star like Crosby sees a chance at something bigger, to join a defense that's hungry for dominance again. Because right now, that defensive front, Jalen Carter, Jordan Davis, Moro Ojomo, Nolan Smith, and Josh Sweat, has all the raw power in the world. What it lacks is that single, unrelenting presence who tilts the field. Crosby could be that force. The kind who doesn't just sack quarterbacks, he breaks offensive lines, kills drives, and changes games by himself. This season, even on a struggling Raiders squad, Crosby's production speaks volumes. Elite grades across the board, constant pressure, and a motor that refuses to die. Caleb Williams, who's faced some of college football's best, called Crosby the toughest player I've ever gone against. And you can see why. The man plays like he's trying to rip the field open beneath his opponent's feet. But Crosby isn't the only dream target. Trey Hendrickson of the Cincinnati Bengals looms as another perfect fit. The Bengals' offense is falling apart, Burrow's out, and the team's playoff hopes are fading fast. Hendrickson, still producing at a top 20 level among all pass rushers, might find himself on the trade block as Cincinnati looks to regroup. The Eagles, on the other hand, are in the opposite position. They don't need a rebuild, they need a spark. Their offense has the pieces, execution and rhythm can be fixed. But the defense, though solid, needs that jolt of chaos off the edge, the kind that Crosby or Hendrickson bring every snap. And that's where Roseman thrives, seizing opportunity when others hesitate. He's built his legacy on boldness, moving mountains to get stars, reshaping entire units in a single offseason. Why stop now? Vic Fangio's defense has been resilient but restless. He's had to blitz more than he ever prefers, a sign that his front four isn't striking enough fear on its own. Deep down, he knows what's missing, that one disruptor who can end a drive before it begins.